The Los Angeles Rams got demolished by a divisional rival in the San Francisco 49ers. Brad and I are going to break down everything that happened in that game. Got a little bit of a film breakdown coming up here. So make sure to listen to this episode of the Locked On Rams podcast to find out who stood out in this game, who didn't play so well, and where the Rams are moving forward.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rams Nation, what is going on? As always, it is your boy, your host, Sosa Kremenjas. I'm a fantasy analyst at PFF and your host here at the Locked On Rams podcast, your number one daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Rams and part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you guys so much for always making us your first daily listen here at Locked On Rams. And for those that are watching on YouTube, you already know what's going down here. For those that are listening through podcast form, you should probably know what's going down here as well. My man, Brad Motter, former host, is joining me for this episode. And Brad, we got a lot to discuss. We're going to dive into it in just a second here. We obviously both watched that Monday Night Football game. The Rams dropped to the 49ers, and dropped is just being nice, I guess, in a way, because they really got smashed, to be honest with you. And the Rams don't have an upcoming game this week. So it's going to be a bye week here to, sort of get right in terms of the injuries and start to get some of that playbook down for some of the new players and for the coaches to find ways to fix some of these issues that we've seen come up over these last 2 weeks. So, Brad, before we get into this game, my friend, I know I had a long Monday night, not just because I had to work after that terrible game, but you talked about it off air as well. A lot of texts coming in from our friends. They were not so positive, my friend. How you been?
No, that's the worst thing about these primetime games is like the whole nation's watching, right? And it's your opportunity to either show everyone that you're a quality football team or to be exposed and look like pretenders on national television. And you're right. Everyone and their mom was texting me trash can emojis, clown emojis, pretenders. I told you one of my friends was even talking trash to me in Spanish. I had to check with my fiance / Google it to even see what he's saying. I'm like, wow, he made me go to work for his trash talk. It was rough, man. I had a friend in town and he just kept looking at me going like, this is your team, bro? This is your team? And it was tough to watch. I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row where it's been tough to watch. 2 weeks in a row where we've seen a pick six taken to the house. Offense, defense, special teams. Don't even get me started on the special teams in that call at the end of the half. Somehow I got angry that they trotted out the field goal unit. And then I talked myself into 10 points, get the points. And then they fake it. And on a 4th and 7, they throw it 2 yards. It was just like, what are we doing? It was broken from the get-go. Man, I mean, this is just the beginning of the rant. This is, coming off a Monday night game. I get rant 2.0 here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Rams. So for everyone hanging in, I know you probably heard Sosa do this, and we'll try not to be too negative here and try to find a way to break it down in a different way of what's next and how do you move on from this. And the bye couldn't have come at a better point, right? We're a little banged up with some new people, as well as also just trying to get familiar with the offense. So perfect time for this bye after 2 losses. Time to sit in the corner and think about what you've done, everyone on that team right now, including Sean McVay. So I know you asked me how I'm doing, but I had to get that off the chest before we can go into the next layer of what are we doing with all this?
They're on timeout right now, man. That was not a good performance. It was not a good feeling after that. It took me a good 24 hours to wash it out of my memory. And I had to go back and watch the All 22, which I did shortly before we hopped on this call to start recording. And I think I feel a little bit better. Now, I told you I got to watch all the defense, every single snap, multiple times over. And I definitely feel better about their performance. But the offensive side of the ball, I never felt too bad about. And the reason for that is because, one, I've seen Sean McVay have these kind of games every year throughout the course of his career as a head coach, right? We've seen it in 2017, 18, 19, 20. And every time he's always been able, for the most part, to bounce back. Really, the only year that he couldn't do it was in 2019 when the team just wasn't good. And that was the year they missed the playoffs. And we know that that's not even close to the caliber of team that they have right now. So, history suggests that Sean McVay will bounce back and his guys will bounce back. And I think the big part of the reason why they were just so bad offensively was uncharacteristic mistakes, right? You're talking about a 3rd down drop from Higbee, a 3rd down drop from Kupp, another drop from Higbee that literally went for a pick 6. So it wasn't a drop. It wasn't just a non-conversion. It was literally putting 7 points on the board for the other team. And a lot of these different things that just they were shooting themselves in the foot, as they say. And so these things typically don't happen, especially not to your best players. You've seen Van Jefferson drop a touchdown. You've seen so many drops from guys that don't drop the football, right?
I think,
and so I think they can get back. Now I'm going to pass to you. I see you want to say something.
No, I think the thing that's frustrating about that is you're breaking it down. It wasn't like a 2nd and 5 drop pass. It was, all those were for first downs. One went the other way as a pick 6, and one was a drop touchdown. So think about it. That's 14 points from the pick 6, and then the touchdown dropped as far as the swing goes there. And then trying to keep the drive alive on 3rd down conversions. And you're right. It's not, that's why you can't be as mad at the offense. As frustrating and irritating as this is, that's not what Cooper Kupp's about. That's not what we're going to see for the rest of the season from Cooper Kupp. Tyler Higbee, I think he tweeted out, probably had his worst game in his career. So I'm not expecting to see that type of stuff again. And sometimes when it goes bad, it goes really bad. But it just happened to be every one of those. It wasn't just a drop or oopsie or we'll get it on the next night. It was a 3rd down. It was a pick 6. It was a touchdown. They were big momentum plays that the Rams needed, and we couldn't do it. And that was just the offense. That was just 4 or 5 plays on the offense. That was going on every single play, it felt like, on both sides of the ball, including special teams. So that's the frustration. We know Sosa covering this team, and our fans, we expect better. You start to get this McVay who's pumping out, 10, 11, 12, 13 win seasons all the time. You start to expect something. And when the names pile on and the news around the NFL is, look, they went and got Von Miller and F those picks and all this stuff. And there starts to become this expectation of like, hey, you got to get it done. And poor Odell, and not many times do I really say poor Odell, but he kind of walked into this, and I think everyone's like, oh, the expectations of like, what he was going to bring in game 1. And then when he didn't, and they catch him on the sideline just looking like he got hit by a bus with confusion, and they're like, oh, he's already thinking about the Packers. And it's like, the man can't even like have a look of defeat on the sideline without there's like he's breaking up the locker room. That was one of the main texts I got. Is like, Odell's cancer's already in there. It's like, he was there for 3 days. Like, how much cancer can he get? Like, that first deep ball wasn't even Odell's fault. He kind of went and did an out route at a certain point thinking, I'm out of this play. He's not going to throw it to me. And Stafford is throwing it to him and he's not even looking. And like you said, it's an arm punt at that place. Maybe if he continues running, it's a 50-50 ball, but that's not on Odell. He's just got here. I'm going to run deep. And if you didn't hit me right away, I'm going to maybe just cruise out to the sideline, maybe throw a sideline ball, but that's just not knowing each other. And Stafford just maybe force feeding that and going, well, this play's broken. Let me just chuck it up. And we were moving the football good on that drive too. So that was the frustrating thing. It's like, it wasn't needed, Stafford. Like, just keep, chunking it and go under center and get some running going, do the play action, do what we did in that second half of that Titans game, where you start to see the offense move a little bit with some adjustments. But man, they just went into panic mode again, and things started falling apart quickly. But sorry, I had to jump in there. I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's just another rant. No. First segment here.
I love it because it felt like one of those days, we talk about just shooting yourself in the foot. Is like not one mistake here or there, but a lot of mistakes from a lot of different guys. And it just takes one drop pass from every player to accumulate, which is 5 drop passes. And if they come on 3rd downs, 2 of which did come on, actually 3 of which did, the pick 6 was also a 3rd and 11 screen. You're not converting. Now you're coming off the field or you're throwing a pick 6. So really it was just a bad performance that kind of, avalanche its way into a really bad performance. But one thing I did want to highlight about the offense that I really feel good about right now is the offensive line. And I talked about it on yesterday's episode, and I said, it felt like they bounced back, right? It felt like Stafford had a pretty good time. And this was a huge talking point last week when Tennessee just eviscerated the offensive line. We all started questioning, is Brian Allen the guy? Is this O-line as good as we speak of? You hear, Booger McFarland talking pregame, they're not built to pass block. I don't even know what that means, because all year they've been pass blocking better than any other line in football. So no idea what he's talking about. But you look at some of the numbers here, according to PFF, they were good. I mean, Havenstein 3 pressures allowed, Austin Corbett 2 pressures, and David Edwards 2 pressures. But I mean, Brian Allen, 85.4 grade. That is really, really good in the elite tier. No pressures allowed, no sacks. And well, guess what? Andrew Whitworth, another 90+ grade, of course, because, it's just never enough with this guy. He's just elite, 0 pressures allowed, 0 sacks. So I feel really good about how those guys played, and I feel really good about them rebounding after a really rough outing in Tennessee. And it feels like now we're 10 weeks into the season. I think we have a pretty good look at, where they're strong, where they're weak. And the offensive line, outside of one stinker against Tennessee, they've been amazing pretty much all season. So it was really, really good for me to see them bounce back in this game. I think I feel a lot better about those guys moving forward in the projection throughout the rest of the season, because that was definitely one of the big points, talking points, especially last week after that rough performance in Tennessee. But Brad, there's a lot more for us to discuss in just a second here. We got to flip the page and look at that defense. And I have a lot of notes from this film breakdown on the defensive side of the ball. Some things that most people probably didn't notice, myself either, in the live copy. So make sure to stick around for that. We're going to dive into that in just a second here. You guys can always follow us on Twitter at QB's MEP, at LA_Rambling Bear, and at Locked On Rams, and on YouTube as well at Locked On Rams. And for those that do listen to this podcast, if you do drive, you should certainly take advantage of one of our sponsors. They are called Get Upside. They can give you up to 25 cents cash back for every gallon of gas that you fill up with in your tank. All you have to do is use the promo code touchdown, and the app, like I mentioned, it is entirely free. You can download it on the Google Play or App Store whenever you want. And not just that, but for your first tank of gas, you can actually get a bonus 25 cents per gallon, which pushes you up to 50 cents cash back per gallon on your first tank of gas. And the best part is you can cash out at any time straight to your bank account, your PayPal account, or even in gift cards if that's how you prefer. All you have to do, get the free Get Upside app and use the promo code touchdown to get up to 50 cents cash back on your first tank of gas. Now, Brad, we got a lot to discuss here. It's the defensive side of the ball. And as I mentioned, I took a bunch of notes here, but I want to kick it to you first before I dive into some of these topics here. And as I mentioned, I mean, I thought initially after that live watch and live copy, they did not feel like they played a very good game. And I think for the most part, they still didn't, right? They still allowed 30 plus in this game. I'm not telling you they were shut down and they were great, but I feel a lot better after watching the copy of the All 22, because now I noticed that it wasn't the good players on the defense getting beat. And we talked about this before we dived into this episode and this recording here. First of all, the run defense I thought was just outstanding. They were so good. They made them earn every single yard, snap after snap. They were averaging like a yard, 2-3 yards per carry. They really had to grind it out, and the Rams really, really made them earn it. So I really wanted to shout that out first. But then you look at, like I mentioned, a lot of those lesser names losing. It wasn't the Jalen Ramseys. It wasn't the Darius Williams. It was David Long Jr. giving up a catch here or there. It was Robert Rochelle giving up a few catches, missing a tackle on a touchdown on that Deebo Samuel touchdown run. It was guys like Taylor Rapp, like everyone that we've talked about throughout the season and that we've highlighted as potential issues came up in this game as an issue. And I think that makes me feel a lot better, just because we knew there were issues going into this game. They've been issues throughout the whole season, and it's just a reoccurring theme at this point. We know they're not superstars. And so, you know, it makes me feel better just knowing that they can still lean on some of those superstars. And we're still trying to find out some of the answers on this side of the ball, which I'm going to dive into in just a second here. But Brad, when you watch this defense, how did you feel coming out of this game? I'm sure you had a lot of questions about, you know, how this performance came about.
Yeah, I didn't watch it again. I don't know if I can watch it again. So kudos to you for going through that and trying to find some positives there. And I had to look it up as you're saying this, because it's weird. I know they at points they really had to grind out that running game. It to me, watching the game, it just felt like they were just running it down our throats. And it felt like they were getting 6 yards per carry at a time. So I had to go look it up, because on the rushing side, Mitchell, 27 carries, 3.4 yards per carry. Okay. Not as, like, if you had me guess, I probably would have said like 4.8 to 5.2. That's the way it felt at a time. But that's because they mixed in their play calling so well that it just felt like every time they'd get a little chunk, they'd get a couple yards here, and then it was just, they were just moving that 6. I mean, you said it in that first quarter, which, by the way, I had the Rams minus half a point in the first quarter, and they ate up the whole dang first quarter. I was so frustrated. Like, give us the ball back. Like, let us try to go win this bet for me. Come on. But seeing those drives, you know, how they just kind of had these long, long drives, and they kept converting on third down. If we got them into a 3rd and 7, they found a way to, like you said, take advantage and find somewhere in the middle of the field, which seemed to be one of their favorite spots, whether that was picking on Troy Reader, the linebackers, or, you know, our 3rd, 4th cornerback, you know, DB right there. And that was the frustrating thing is if we continue to play this way defensively, teams are going to scheme to find, okay, where's Ramsey? You're going to have him on a blitz. Sure. Cool. We're going to go after these guys. And you mentioned it off air, and, you know, maybe we get to it a little bit, but Josh Norman, who I think is now your favorite fan as far as Locked On Rams goes, you know, you said, hey, we targeted him one time, and he's probably one of the worst DBs right now statistically in the league. And on the other side, here's Jimmy G going, oh, you're going to give me this matchup? Oh, you're going to bring him here? And if we continue to put that on film, other teams like the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, you don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to go find Rochelle on the field, and he's not going to go, find where David Long Jr. is, and he's going to go the opposite side of where Jalen Ramsey is. So defensively, and maybe this is a scheme thing, we got to get better at mixing up where these guys are at, or putting our guys in a position, to succeed. I remember one of the things when we had Wade Phillips and hearing, kind of Aqib Talib talk about, one of his favorite things about Wade Phillips is he goes, all he does is put me in a position to succeed. And that's why he's one of my favorite coaches ever. He just trusts me in where I'm going to go. He puts me in the great spot and I go make the play. And I feel like right now, Morris is not doing that defensively with our guys. And we've got studs across the board right now. Obviously, Von Miller needs to get into it a little bit more, but man, it was a struggle to watch to see these Rams couldn't get off the field for 11 minutes. And then we came on and, 3 and out, or you move for first down and then go. And then all of a sudden our defense, who is still on an oxygen mask trying to get ready to go, get healthy again, all of a sudden throw up right back on the field for another 10-minute drive. So it was exhausting watching that defense out there. And I'm glad you found some positives there, because I haven't watched it again. And I'm going to put it up as a stinker for him, because we need to do a lot better than that. And Jalen Ramsey, man, had some great plays. But it's funny, when I was watching just a few of the highlights, I'm like, oh, great play by Jalen Ramsey. Who is that wide receiver? I don't even know that guy's name. Like, why is he even guarding him? Like, great play. But, and first of all, that also tells me about Jimmy G. Why are you throwing at Jalen Ramsey on your third, fourth wide receiver? But it was a struggle on both sides. So I'll keep it, 100 here and say, I'm glad you can give him some kudos, but nope, not for me. they got to do a lot better. But I do appreciate, the silver lining somewhere in there, that we do have some good players there. It was just a frustrating thing. Even, jumping off sides a couple times on big plays on third downs was frustrating. Aaron Donald reads the play and defensive penalty, and next thing you know, free first down. So frustrating on all sides. But I like that you got some more. Is there anything else juicy that you saw in the tape that you can give us to, maybe cheer us up a little bit more?
There's some observation. I'm going to keep it a buck too. I went off last night on the podcast.
I heard it. I listened to it twice today. I drive to work and drive home. I had to hear it twice. I was like, I gotta get in this again.
That was 1 a.m. at my time. All right. So that was juicy. You got to find me in a weird spot to be that excited and energized at 1 a.m. But yeah, like you mentioned, there was a lot of takeaways. Like I said, the run defense was great. Jalen Ramsey, you mentioned him. Another player, Jordan Fuller. I thought he was outstanding in this game. I really, really think he's taking a big step in his development this year. He really looks like one of those borderline, like, I'm not going to say elite, but he might be creeping closer to that territory. Like, he is really, really good. I thought he and Ramsey were outstanding in this game. The inside linebackers, Troy Reeder, I want to be nice. I don't want to, bark at these guys too much.
No, go at them.
They're human beings. They're human beings with feelings. This game was terrible. I mean, he was so bad in this game, and he was picked on, and it made sense. I mean, he can't cover George Kittle. There is not a chance in hell that he can do that.
He wasn't even trying to cover George Kittle. You posted a video where George Kittle picks up a third down. You're like, this is easy as it gets. And literally, the play is snapped. George Kittle's taken 4 steps. He hasn't even moved. Like, I haven't played football in forever in straight a position, but I know at a linebacker position, when the ball is snapped, you got to at least have your feet moving to be prepared to cover a guy like George Kittle. He's walking the guys in cement. He's going, oh, this is too easy. I don't even really have to do a fake. He's not even moving. I just go, and I'm already gone. So I was frustrated too, and that's why I said, you know what? They're making money. Hey, we got to give it to them. That was a poor performance. But the problem is, and the Rams did this when they decided, hey, we're moving on from a Kenny Young type of guy, they said, hey, we're going to go with Ernest Young, and we're going to go with Troy Reeder. And so we've kind of put ourselves in this bed that we have to sleep in. And man, with Troy Reeder, obviously you said they pulled him at a certain point, whether it was a little bit of injury or a lot of bit of performance. But, that was the one glaring area. And the other glaring area is some of what we felt like we had great depth of in the cornerback position coming in. And those are 2 areas that Jimmy G picked on. Like, Jimmy G, making Jimmy G look good right now is a bad thing in anything, so
it's not good. It's not good. You mentioned, though, there was something interesting that I want to talk about here in just a second that we're going to dive into. You kind of touched on it there. So we're going to wrap up this game and then start talking about where the Rams can kind of focus their direction moving forward into this bye week. But before we get there, make sure to keep tuning back in throughout the rest of this week at the Locked On Rams podcast. We're going to keep you guys updated on all things for your Los Angeles Rams. Now, if you haven't tried the Built Bar, I'm telling you, you guys are missing out. A lot of people just say it's a protein bar, but it does not taste like one. They are some of the best protein bars on the market. They're not chalky. They're not waxy. They're not hard to take down like a lot of these other protein bars. I've tried a lot in my time. Trust me, I can assure you a lot of them, most of them actually, are just not that good. A Built Bar, though, is soft and it's covered in 100% real chocolate. And when you bite into it, it's kind of like a different experience. It doesn't even feel like you're eating a protein bar. It actually feels like you're eating just a candy bar or a chocolate bar. And not just that, but the Built Bars are also low in carbs. They're low in calories, low in fat, low in sugar, and they're high in protein. But not just that, they have all the healthy benefits on top of just being purely delicious and so many different flavors. Actually, this month at Built, they're coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days, which is kind of crazy to say. So make sure to go check out their website often. You do not want to miss out some of the cool flavors they have coming. All you have to do, just go to built.com and use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. And Brad, my pockets are feeling a little bit light after that Monday night. Unfortunately, parlays, no gusto. And some of the outright bets, like the Rams money line at halftime, no gusto. But you guys can get in on some of that action at betonline.ag. They are back and they are better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. All you have to do, just go ahead to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From football to basketball to baseball, postseason, NHL, boxing, UFC, whatever you like, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait. Make sure to take advantage of all the amazing offers available right now for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, thank you guys so much for always making us your first daily listen here at Locked On Rams. For your second daily listen, go check out Locked On Bets. They are your number one daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. And now, Brad, I got these last few observations to get into, some juicy ones, some interesting ones before we flip the page and forget about this game and pretend like it never even happened. So going back to this game, first player I wanted to highlight, number 93, Marquise Copeland. He's been playing a little bit more now with Sebastian Joseph Day out for the year or out for the foreseeable future. And he played outstanding in this game. He was so good in run support. I want to see more of this guy. I think he's going to continue to be a factor with a lot of those bodies going down. In general, like I said, that run game or the run defense for the Rams was tremendous. Greg Gaines, A'Shawn Robinson, Aaron Donald, all these guys were really good. But I wanted to highlight number 93, a very unknown player, obviously, for this team. Not many people really know who he is, but very great performance by him. Then you move into what you kind of mentioned there. The Rams started with Troy Reeder out there as the base linebacker. So what that means is when they only had one linebacker out there in their little 5-1 formations, which means 5 guys on a line of scrimmage and only one linebacker, it was Troy Reeder. But like I mentioned, he played so bad that at halftime, the Rams actually swapped him out for Ernest Jones. And so to begin the game, it was Reeder. And for a half, they had seen enough. They yanked him. And then they put Jones in that situation and then kind of brought Reeder in as the linebacker too, which was sort of vice versa from the first half. But not only that, they did the exact same thing at cornerback. To start the game, it was Robert Rochelle out there. And as I mentioned, a struggling game, a bad game performance from him as well. And so at halftime, they do the exact same thing. Now it's David Long out there and Rochelle off the field. So this may seem like, a positive. They're finding guys that are not performing well and they're yanking them. But at the same time, this, I think, is the biggest issue with this defense right now. And I talked about it yesterday. I've talked about it a lot on Twitter. I do not think Raheem Morris knows his personnel. Like, I just don't. This guy, it's week 10. You need to know who your best players are. How by this point in the season do you still not know? I mean, this team cut Dante Dion, and I talked about it on this podcast in the offseason. He didn't make the 53-man roster. And then last week, he was starting. Like, how do you not know that this guy was going to be better than David Long or better than Robert Rochelle? Every week, they're changing who they're starting at cornerback. They're changing who they're starting at the edge, who they're starting at linebacker. And it just shows that I don't think Raheem Morris knows what his best personnel is. You look back to this last game, Taylor Rapp was in coverage in the nickel spot on multiple big third downs. He's the one who gave up that long touchdown to Deebo Samuel. In fact, I have the numbers here. He gave up all 3 of his targets for 3 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. Listen, Taylor Rapp can do a lot of good things for your defense. Playing coverage in the nickel spot is not one of them. One guy that I know on the roster can do that because I've seen it with my own eyes, Terrell Burgess. Why is he not out there playing in that role? I do not understand. It does not make sense to me. I do not think Raheem Morris knows his personnel for these reasons. You look at Dante Dion, you look at all the swapping now, you look at Jalen Ramsey not playing against the best guys, Darius Williams playing nickel for 95% of snaps one week and now not playing it at all. The safety rotation, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm very concerned with what
I want to add a few things to that because this, as you're saying this, it starts bringing back some of the old high school memories of playing sports. And I played on a basketball team where our senior year, we had a coach come in who didn't know the roster at all. We had been here all the 3 years because we had a 3-year high school. Of the other one, you're at junior high. So we're 3 years deep on this team. He comes in, he starts moving pieces around. He makes the captain a guy that no one respected or liked it. And then as we get to a point, we're getting our butts whipped, and he starts doing the same thing. 1 week, you're a starter. Next week, you're a starter. Next week, you're a starter. He came in the locker room at one point during halftime and said, all right, guys, here's a piece of paper. Fill out the starting 5. We're like, what? You're the coach. What are we doing here? Like, fill out that starting 5. I'm a senior, and all of a sudden, of course, all the sophomores and juniors looking at each other like, hey, put my name in, man. So we ran that way. And all of a sudden, the whole team lost respect for the coach because we realized he doesn't know us. He doesn't know how to utilize us. He doesn't know what position to put us in. And you saw some of this going on the sidelines as you're kind of now breaking this down. You're seeing Jalen Ramsey. You're like, oh, Jalen Ramsey upset with the blah, blah, blah. He's going off on Morris on the sideline. He's yelling at him going, what are we doing? Like, how am I supposed to get in a groove with this linebacker when all of a sudden you're bringing this linebacker? Next thing I know, I look over and I got Rochelle here. And after that, I look over and I understand there's a rotation and get these guys in. But when it's obvious to the players, especially at this elite level, like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, that your coach kind of just tinkering with things during the game, and you know what? We're just going to pull you at halftime. We're going to put the other guy in. That's not how you solve a problem. That's like when you see a leak in a boat and you put your finger here, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, there's a leak. Let me go here." And you're just taking a guess at it. You're not really solving a problem. You're just switching things up like that. So that's got to get fixed over this time period. We talked about this bye week even before we started. Like, how are we going to take advantage of this time off to just kind of regroup and get some stuff figured out? It really should come at that level, figuring out like, what do you want to run with? And let's try to have some consistency there so the team at least can buy into it, because seeing Jalen Ramsey on the sideline, he gets he's a hothead. Oh, Odell's here, so he's got to show who's the biggest, yeller on the sideline and when really he's just probably frustrated with his defensive coordinator not putting them in a position to succeed. And most likely Jalen Ramsey's got a pretty good idea on what defense would do best out there, and he's not getting that opportunity to kind of get that across. So I can understand that frustration as you kind of broke that down. I'm thinking in my own head, I've lived through that, where you're looking at a coach and you're like, do you even know what we should be doing? And that, I feel like that's the way this defense may be reacting to this is, if that's the way we're doing, just a trigger happy pull, and I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to put you in here. It's not going to build team chemistry. And at this point of the season, as you mentioned, we're 10 games in, and this is down the stretch. You look at our opponents, it's not going to get any easier with some of these guys coming in. So they got to get it figured out. And they've got, this bye week to kind of hopefully take a breather, come back up to the surface, grab some air, and figure out how to come together as a team. Losing a guy like Robert Woods that, they all talk going to the game. He's a massive leader on this team. Who else is going to step up on that defense side of the ball, on that offense side of the ball, and start to kind of shake the heads of all these players and say, hey, we got to just focus on this opponent this week, and we got to start executing, because that was the other problem. Execution, tackles, blown coverage, letting guys go on third down, jumping off sides, drop balls, like that type of stuff is the stuff that if you make it to the playoffs, which the Rams stacked wins early enough that if they can at least put together a 500 season near the end of the season, that they should be able to maybe just fall into the playoffs. But you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to go play a team on the road, and you do stuff like that. It's going to be a very short season, and me and you are going to get a lot of texts on the side going, you guys thought you were Super Bowl contenders, and here you are getting bounced in the first round. So now's the time to clean it up in this bye week. They got to take it pretty serious. This isn't a go to Cabo week. This is everyone should be in the lab right now.
Yeah, this is a let's stay in California and everyone come back to the facility type of week, other than the people that need the breaks like Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I have no problem with the experimentation. I actually respect the fact that they're not going to be hard-headed and say, I want this guy starting. He's going to start. I respect being able to man up, make the mistake, and change it. But we're in week 10. I mean, come on. This is stuff you want to find out in week 2 or 4, right? Like, we're in the thick of things right now. You're fighting for an NFC West crown, a first seed in the NFC. There's no time to be playing these games anymore. So the cornerback rotation, I can understand maybe a little bit this week. Dante Dion did not play. He was inactive. But, I mean, again, last week they were rotating cornerbacks on first and then second and third down, which is just absurd to me. So we're flipping the page, Brad. It's done. No more 49ers talk. We're not talking about that team again until they play again. And hopefully that time we have something better to talk about. But you mentioned it. This is their time now. They have a bye week. They can sort of breathe, get healthy. Some of those new guys, Odell, Von Miller, get caught up in the playbooks and things like that. Is there anything in general that you really want to see outside of, just figuring out your personnel here in terms of what you want coming out of this bye week? Because like you mentioned, they got Green Bay. This isn't going to be a cakewalk. It's going to be maybe the hardest team that they have left on their schedule. So they got to come out of this one really prepared. And you mentioned it as well. It's on the road.
Yeah, I think it's just this team's got to come together. And we're this late in the season. You make all these moves. Going back to the Dante Fowler, and he came in right away and just found his groove and just found his little niche, and he dominated at that. We've done it with some of these other guys throughout the years past. And I think really this bye week should just be kind of getting this team back on the same page, because it just felt a little all over the place. The other thing is really when you get your tail whooped by the Titans, you thought, man, they're going to chip on the shoulder. They're going to come out hard. The Niners have beat them 4 times in a row, now 5 times in a row. Like, where's the pride in it? And I know this is so easy for me to sit here in my chair, and just behind the mic and go, where's your pride in it? And I'm yelling at TV when I'm losing a sports bet. But man, there's got to be a point where they say enough is enough. And if we're going to be a contender and we're going to have the rest of the league, whether it's, the national media who no one cares about, or if it's going to be the team that's lining up across from you. Because right now, I think the team that's lining up across from goes, these guys aren't as tough as we thought. And they played the freaking Giants, and they played all these little cakewalks in the middle of the season. So we got to come out and really take it personal. And we understand that this next game, I don't want to say it's a, must win, but I mean, it's pretty easy to say it is, right? When you go up against the top team in the NFC, one of the top teams in the NFC in their house. And if you get smacked again and your last 3 games are smack, like, I mean, at what point do you just say, hey, you're right, let's start looking and let's start packing it up? Like, I mean, emotionally, I would think the team is going to get a little defeated. So it's a big, big game. And obviously I can't wait to come back next week and talk about this game in general. Next week is, next Wednesday is going to be just a full-on episode looking forward to the Green Bay Packers and maybe a little bit of talk of, okay, I got some time to relax and, sorry, Troy Reeder, you can still be on the team, but I'm coming after all these guys. We're hot. I remember driving in here and you said, get home quick because I'm heated. We got to get on the mic.
Yeah, I did say that. That's no joke there. The thing here is, you mentioned it. I mean, this is Green Bay. It's an important game. And if the Rams want people to buy back into them as a Super Bowl contender, this is a good opportunity to do it, man. It is the best one, actually, because they're going to need this tiebreaker. I mean, going into the late season here, if you beat this team, you have a tiebreaker over Tampa. You have one over Green Bay. And if you can knot it up with Arizona, you are basically on an even playing field there. That is huge moving forward. Now, I'm sure they're not exactly concerned maybe with the first seed, or they're going to tell you they're not, but they definitely should be, because getting to play at home every single game in the playoffs in SoFi Stadium all the way through the Super Bowl, man, listen, there is no advantage that you're going to get like that. So the Rams should absolutely be on their best behavior for the next week and ready to come out firing.
All you ever want is to control your own destiny. And at this point, they still control their own destiny. They've got the Cardinals still up. They got the Packers still up. And if you can win some of these ball games, it is in your hands at this point. At a certain point, when you start losing a couple of these ball games, it's not in your hands anymore. And you're just kind of hoping you make it. So right now, the Rams need to really kind of wake up, take advantage of it's still in their hands and it's up to them. And if they want to go win these ball games, they can. And if not, it could get down to week 16, 17, where we're going, and we need this team to beat this team. And we can then maybe get in here. So still in our hands.
Yeah, the season's not escaped. I mean, the Cardinals are one game ahead. They might be half a game ahead in a week's time. Everything is still ahead of the Rams here. I think they got to get it figured out this week, like you mentioned. Hopefully they will. That is going to do it, though, for this episode. Make sure to keep tuning back in here at the Locked On Rams podcast throughout the rest of this week. We're going to continue to update you with everything you need to know about your Los Angeles Rams. And just a reminder, you guys can always come connect with us on Twitter at QB's MEP, at LA_Ramblingbear, and at Locked On Rams, and on YouTube as well at Locked On Rams. And please subscribe or follow to get our latest episodes, content, breaking news, and a whole lot more.